Cheers to an empty glass, and I'm going to pour right now my non-alcoholic beverage. So I bet a lot of our viewers have been wondering where we've been. It's been a really hectic and busy end to 2024 and
Boy.
start to 2025.
Indeed. Yeah, it's been what, 6 or so months since we recorded last.
Something like that,
Sorry
yeah.
about that.
And I've technically gone dry. I'm going to stop drinking for a little while, so um,
Cheers.
Ariel will pick up the slack for me.
I'll try.
And I don't know, this might be appreciated by some of our viewers who do not partake. Got one of my
It'll survive.
got one of my props wet here. Um, yeah, a lot was going on. I mean, towards the end of the year there we had I think one of the last episodes was in September or maybe, so it was before Capital Audio Fest. So,
Okay.
I got prepped to go to Cap, and that was super fun, super busy. Did a room with one of our dealers out there, Now Listen Here, and it was a Ayre and a Cora room with some other supporting equipment like
Hmm.
EMM Labs, and actually I got one of my bits of swag from that show here. I'm using my Finley audio coaster. Finley Cables was who we used for that room. And yeah, so that was like November. And I mean, I guess we can kind of talk about this now because it's already come and gone, but we were almost going to move.
Yeah, we talked about that, I know, in some of our previous episodes, and so we were moving. So we were planning on moving up until January, and it was getting down to the wire, and we had some things fall through and some things change. And so we can say now that we did not move, which was kind of a blessing because it's a huge disruption, both to production and to design to be able to pick up and move. So I'm pretty happy didn't end up having to move.
Yeah, so we're kind of set in place for at least the next 2 to 3 years, maybe, here
Yeah.
at the same spot we've been in. So that's really handy because yeah, we were knee deep in wrapping up, excuse me, all the final details that we needed for this brand new phono preamp that we've been working on.
Yep.
So that was,
That we've been working on for years and promised for the last few years, and we're finally there.
you know what?
So the last few months have been hectic.
The best things come to those who wait, though, I think, because I can say from what I saw of this product from when I started here almost 3 years ago now, it seems like a much different and evolved product than what it had started as in a lot of ways. Um, think that there's like some pretty cool, awesome features that were added to it and such that
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
make it a pretty compelling product.
Yeah. Yeah. So anybody, I'm pretty certain we showed some samples of it years ago, maybe even at Munich or even maybe even the last Rocky Mountain. So we had some physical prototypes. I don't know that we were listening to it, but it was in a different size chassis. It was in kind of a kind of two-thirds width chassis. And so that was the original idea, part of it to kind of cut down on material costs and try and make it a little unique, but um, ended up being that, we wanted us to put more into it and also be able to share the same universal chassis we use. And so it just made sense to make it full size. And so, which prompted, a whole relayout of the main board, which gave us a lot more options and a lot of things. So it now fits into the line. Um, for better or worse, it fits in with the rest of the 8 series. It is unique in that it doesn't have anything in the middle. So like most everything else either has headphone jacks or it has a like the CX-8 has the CD drawer
Right.
So this is the first unique faceplate for this.
Yeah, and I guess we can just jump in and start talking about the elephant in the room. Here it is. This
Front
is
and center.
yeah, this is the new PX-8. So our latest addition to the 8 series by Ayre. So I think this is probably going to be one of the most talked about and exciting products that we've put out in some years. I know just vinyl sales are still pretty hot, and the analog hi-fi market is bit booming still. Um, there's a lot of demand for it, and
Yeah, this is probably one of as you know, as far as kind of pre-sales and pre-orders for it. This is one of the bigger, I'd say one of the bigger lists we've had for any of our like 8 series products. This is has a pretty deep list of people that have placed orders or waiting for it to come out. So
yeah,
it's exciting.
we've had people banging on the door and or asking us to take their money and just patiently waiting for it for months now, and really appreciate them. There's some a lot of dealers that these are going to go out to, so there's going to be a lot of floor demonstration units shipping out here soon. We've got the first few official production units shipping out this week, so we're starting to see them kind of make their way around to the dealers and the supporters that kind of helped kickstart this thing into production for us. And so, yeah, I mean, without further ado, we might talk about some of the other special and unique features about this thing, and I'll kind of spin this around just so that people can see the backside of it. And yeah, it's got two separate gain. It's got two separate inputs.
Yeah, yeah. So in typical air fashion, we have it is a fully balanced circuitry, so we can support true balanced input as well as single-ended. So we've got complete separate um, uh, balanced and single-ended input. And so unlike our previous, like the P5, where those inputs were more or less shared, and then there was a little single-ended switch, and that would terminate the negative phase. In this case, it's a completely separate path up until the gain stage, and so we'll talk about what that means shortly here. But so it's completely separate um, inputs, so that you can actually have two different sources hooked up to it. You could have two different turntables hooked up, and then there's input selection on the front. And obviously single-ended balanced outputs, standard for air. And then you also see um, these little black panels here. So that's be an optional input slots. And so we are releasing it with a option card for the optical pickup cartridges, such as DS Audio. And so and that was a pretty big factor in kind of the redesign and the time it took to redesign for this larger chassis. Larger chassis allowed us to do this, and so that was something Jake was really pushing for. And so I I'm a I thought it'd be pretty quick and easy. It never is. So it took me a little longer to get it all implemented, but I am very happy we did.
Well, to be fair, I mean, you hadn't really been exposed to that
Yeah,
technology much before, but
yeah,
I went to Munich 2 years ago for us. There was a little snafu with Ariel's passport, and he was originally planning to go to that show for us, Munich of 2023, and he didn't get his passport back in time. And I think it was the day before the flight was supposed to go out, or maybe 2 days before the flight. Um, we had decided to get your ticket transferred
Oh yeah,
over to me.
it was probably more. It was more like a week or two, but
No, I don't
uh,
think it was.
we was,
I think
it was tight.
we
It
were
was tight.
waiting
Yeah.
up until the last
Okay.
minute that we possibly could, and it just became kind of all of a sudden, well, I guess Jake are going to Munich, and so we weren't exhibiting out there, but I had the opportunity to make my rounds, check the show out, and meet with vendors, suppliers, distributors, and that's where I met Aki with DS Audio and got kind of the technical side of what they're doing. I had already been kind of following their brand for a few years before then, but after meeting with their engineer and Aki, the owner and I guess founder of DS Audio, and kind of getting explained the technical aspect of it. They gave me some documentation to bring back for Ariel, and it took a while for Ariel to kind of scan through and look at that. But um, the day that he made time for it, he just kind of looked it over in a few minutes and said, "Oh yeah, we can do that." And more or less had an idea of what it took to implement that. And so yeah, this PX8 has a third optional input,
Yep.
and as of right now, the only available option is the photo optical cartridge input from DS Audio, which could be expanded in the future. There might be some other options that we come out with down the road.
Yeah, yeah, it's an option. So we can if we have the demand and the time to fulfill those, we'll design those too.
If you have any options or demands for an optional input, feel free to let us know in the comments of what you'd like to insert into this brand new phono stage.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So, and get back kind of the core of what this is. And so again, we over the decades, Air has been pretty well known for its phono stages, starting with the K1.
mm,
And it was I would say, one of the most highly regarded built-in phono stages of its time and beyond. Um, and so, so Charlie's original design, based on, you know, discrete zero feedback JFET input, balanced design was kind of revolutionary and has held up very, very well. And so, um, you know, with Air's circuit evolution, this has pretty much all of our latest tricks. And so, still has our discrete zero feedback, complementary balanced JFET gain stages. So it's two gain stages to be able to get enough gain for the high gain settings. Um, and then also allows us to do passive RIAA EQ. Um, and so um, I guess the kind of the evolution of it all is, um, any of the buffers we use so the output buffer is our diamond output buffer. And then um, much more user friendly in its feature switching and its input switching, and we provide load switching and load and gain switching, and it's all front panel software controlled. It's all part of the user interface. And so there's a wide range of loading that you can set per input and set gain per input. And so if you have multiple tone arms, you can have them connected and you can have each of them set up individually, and you switch inputs, and it will automatically go back to the save settings for that input. And that all works very seamlessly, fast, quiet, um, which is, I think, a pretty big departure, certainly from the P5.
yeah.
You wish you had to take off the top. You had very minimal. Um, there were three gain settings. Loading was available from the back, but it was just two little dip switches. So you think you had open, which was 47K, 1K, or 100 ohms.
And so all these are changeable on the fly
Completely
too.
on the fly. Yep, the display.
And we'll demonstrate how that switching works in a moment. The angle
Yeah.
for the camera is a little high up, so you don't get as
Yeah.
good of a view. But yeah, I think that that's going to be a huge win for people because I know just especially the loading on the fly for a lot of people being able
Yeah.
to kind of fine tune their cartridge. Not all cartridges have the specific loading in mind, and they tell you to kind of use your ear and to be able to
Right.
do that pretty quickly. That'll be huge. And that's probably part of some of the delays in this too. I mean, to get the user interface dialed in and
So if it was dialed in, yeah, as well as one of the things I was always the most nervous about, and most determined to squash is any switching noises. So when you're switching loadings or switching gains or switching inputs, I know that I would get an earful if there was any obnoxious noises doing any of these. And so I'm quite happy finally. It out yeah, there were some nervous points where I wasn't sure if it was going to get there, but it is, and I'm very, very, very happy with it.
yeah, yeah, I've torture tested it and I have given him
Yeah.
an earful and it sounds great.
Yeah.
I have never been as excited for vinyl and just a pure analog rig as I have been since we've really gotten to the home stretch of this product. I'm very excited for it. Um, yeah, so got two separate inputs plus a third optional input, DS audio to start. There's also an optional output element to it that we're pretty excited for.
Yeah, yeah, and so yeah, and this is what we showed with the prototypes years ago as well. So it has an optional digital output. So very similar to the QA9, it has an A to D section and it uses the same technology as in the QA9 with our moving average filter, perfect transfer and response. And so uh, that is not ready to ship with these first units, but I'm working on that now. And that will be coming very, very soon. I know we have a lot of pre-orders for that as well. So, it'll make it a very easy, one box solution as far as like archiving vinyl. Um, and that was really the only kind of use I originally saw. I remember when we announced this, and I think we showed at least the passive box in Munich several years ago. I know our German distributor was actually pretty excited about it. Um, not for recording, but actually for potentially for um, going into a digital preamp and being able to you know use it with any kind of digital filters and room correction or whatever purpose. I'm not very familiar with many digital preamps, so but he was excited about it.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, it's it. But I still think the primary benefit of this and the primary use will be for recording vinyl.
Yeah, I mean, there's no end to how many vinyl records in someone's collection you might not be able to find on like a streaming service out there somewhere. And I know for like us up here in the mountains, going up for a drive up through the canyons or something, you're gonna lose cell service. And if you can archive some of your favorite records that make you feel good when you're listening to them and you want to drive to those records, you can just load them on your phone or some kind of portable media player and play them wherever and not be limited to dropping the needle at home or not being able to find it on a streaming service. Like that to me is pretty cool. And another fun thing about it that I enjoyed doing, so when we were showing like kind of one of the final prototype iterations at Pacific Audio Fest this last year, we were running the PX-8 with the Proto A to D board in there. And we had the analog output going to the QX8's analog input or KX8 preamp analog input, and the KX8 had the built-in DAC as well. So I ran an optical cable, just a little toss link out into the DAC section of the KX8 as well. And I would, in the middle of a track, sometimes like at a nice kind of transition point, just jump from one input to the next, from analog input to digital input. And the number of vinyl heads that just sat there, and as soon as I did that, go, huh? And just kind of
Hmm.
tilt their head to the side and be like, there's no way that sounds so good. It
Yeah.
it really is a testament to not only to the A to D conversion process, but also our D to A
DNA. Yeah.
conversion process. And it sounds really good. And also before that show, I remember in my testing here at the factory, I had the analog or the optical output of the PX8 going into a QX8 DAC, and I would go from spinning a record. I was playing around with like some talking heads, and I was spinning the record, doing the digital out, and then doing the D to A from the QX8 DAC digital hub, and I would jump over to like Tidal or Qobuz and stream that same
Yeah.
record and same song, just switch back and forth that way. And I enjoyed the A to D conversion more than the streamed version. It sounded more relaxed and natural and full. Like it sounds really good. So I'm sure people can get creative and come up with all sorts of different ways to use it. Like you can run some 200-foot toss link cable to some outdoor system or something, or
Mm.
just like route that signal in a number of ways. Or with the AES, I mean, you can easily run a long AES connection because of it being balanced and not have any signal degradation. There might be some digital hardware recorders. We have a new client in Ireland that does vinyl restoration services and archival, and he is going to use his A to D section to send the AES into an old Alesis digital recorder. So that's just another way to use it. So yeah, I think it's a really clever thing to add into it. I don't know of many other companies that offer this type of
No.
approach at all. And
Not and not at this level for certainly no.
no, and I don't know of any other phono stage right now that allows you to archive and digitize not only moving coil and moving magnet, but also the DS audio photo
Right.
optical playback in one piece of kit. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
pretty exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. So that digital output it has both toslink, SPDIF, AES-EBU on XLR as well as USB output. And so the any of the SPDIF outputs, so tossing SPDIF, AES, those are format limited to 192, and they can and so it'll be able to do DSD as well. So over those, it'll be able to do 1x DOP. The USB will be a little bit more capable, so we can do probably at least 384. I'm hoping to push that. I haven't finalized that yet. So both PCM and DSD, we should be able to do higher rate for both of those over the USB, but not willing to put that in stone yet.
Yeah, yeah, don't quote us, but we know that when people want to archive their analog material, they want to start with the highest sample rate
Yeah,
possible,
absolutely.
which makes the most sense. Start high and sample down if you have to.
Yep.
I might just slip this top panel off
Yep.
here because I can, and the circuit board layout and stuff is pretty cool to look at. There's some new things that we've done on the circuit board design that we haven't done in other products too.
Yeah, yeah. So there's starting to be a few new things a few new tricks that I'm developed, and so particularly applicable bonus stage where we have such high gain in our zero feedback JFET gain stages. they're, probably one of their biggest issues is, DC offset and temperature stability. And so we've had various ways to handle that, but now I was able to find some nice little kind of, they're marketed more as the RF shields, but they act perfectly as a little, metal can kind of box oven. And so they very effectively block any, because most of the current variation comes from even just micro air currents. And so this more or less blocks that and radically stabilizes the temperature variations between the JFETs within that stage. And so any of the DC drifts thus is radically reduced. Not eliminated. Nothing's ever eliminated. But it is much better than any of the previous products. And so so this is a trick I fully intend to use on products in the future, phono stages or not. So it has its own, also benefits in just actual, RF shielding and shielding in general, just as electrical shielding, besides temperature shielding in a way. So that's one of the very obvious things on here. You see the board is very much like, uh, like the EX8 or VX8 or KX8 boards, pretty much full width, same style. So again, like these products, and we've probably talked about this before, where there's one universal chassis for all the 8 series stuff. And so there was a couple modifications we had to make to be able to support the PX8 design, but that just rolls into the production chassis. So in the other change, you'll see little, what to call it. I'm kind of playing with names for it, but there's a little top clamp on top of the,
It's like a mechanical sink kind of.
yeah, yeah. So a little clamp that sits on top of the capacitors. And so we've figured out years ago, and we've never really addressed, but the mounting of electrolyte capacitors, the film capacitors, the mechanical mounting has a pretty dramatic effect on their sonic signature. And so this is my newest attack on that. And in fact, there's that the more rigid and I want to say damp, but just the more rigid that they are attached to the board, the better. And so, when we were like had them off the board and they could kind of flex on their leads or anything like that, that was usually detrimental. And so,
Yeah.
so we actually, and so there's a little kind of multi-layer kind of board here, and there's some recesses inside that actually fit around the top profile of the capacitors, and then we can clamp that down to them. So it actually pulls it down against the board. So we actually apply that before we even solder the capacitors to the board. It's applied, then they're soldered, and it stays on, and so it keeps them very mechanically rigid. Um,
Yeah, because they're microphonic in a sense, right?
Absolutely,
So
yes,
yeah.
yeah. Especially in a phono preamp that has such high gain, microphonics are kind of a big deal. Yeah, when I was doing a lot of um, my kind of noise testing, my kind of unwanted noise testing. So I had headphones on a lot. I'm actually listening to like um, I've got a pair of Charlie's old. He has some headphones that actually have just balanced connectors. I can just plug into the actual outputs here, and so it's you know, uh, pretty much on any game, but especially if it's a medium or kind of higher gain. And if you're listening to it, and if you just, and so if I have an input cable coming into the inputs of the preamp, and if you just kind of touch, just touch or kind of rub that cable, it is amazing
Yeah,
how much that's picked up.
right.
It is loud. So if you so again, so that just bring back to the point of like, and we've probably talked about in our sound room before, like how we have why do we raise cables off the floor and stuff? And well, again, it kind of comes back to the microphonics and just that, um, you know, it becomes very obvious here because of such high gain in a phono stage, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen in any other product or any other cable or any other source or amplifier. It's just that it's typically lower level, so it's not obvious to you, but it's absolutely happening.
Hmm.
Um,
And in most
it's
cases, it's probably almost impossible to eliminate it. So we're fine tuning it more or less
yeah,
is probably.
yeah, yeah. You definitely want to, reduce it, attenuate it. Yeah, you want to, reduce its effect.
Yeah.
Um, obviously, because that's just that becomes a form of feedback.
Hmm.
Um, not necessarily. Uh, yeah. So, what else?
One thing that I
Uh,
thought was really cool we did, so with the optional inputs here that you can see, they're on the back
right,
side of the unit, whereas some of our other units in this series with
right,
optional features like the network input or the USB input, you actually have to remove the top panel and put them into the product from kind of the inside. But these, they just insert right parallel kind of into the back side of the unit, and we have these Ariel came up with these really trick little guide rails that the circuit board kind of fits into and kind of just takes some of the guesswork out of making sure that it gets inserted and lined up properly so that there's hopefully no damaged circuit boards out in the wild from people
right,
wanting to install these things themselves. So it makes it really easy for somebody to, just order the unit as a basic model. Maybe they haven't wanted to go down that DS audio rabbit's hole yet, but I highly recommend you do. And and actually, I think we'll talk about that in a minute here too. But yeah, it makes it easy to order just the base model, and I think almost any user should feel pretty confident that they could install these themselves without much assistance. But of course, we're happy to help do that for you if you want to send it back to us, or your dealer is more than qualified to help you with that as well. But yeah, that was kind of part of the goal in mind is to make sure it was kind of bonehead simple.
yep, absolutely.
Yeah, as far as our testing with this thing, we're very fortunate to have some great friends and resources on the moving coil side. Our good friend Shane Bettner with Mibs Distro helped get us hooked up with some Lyra cartridges that became kind of like a regular test tool for us. We had Delos and Cleos SL and kind of put some mileage on those in the testing
Mhm.
process. And we might continue to climb the ladder and continue to test and audition and try different cartridges out with this. Our friends at DS Audio also sent us two sample cartridges in the development process here, and that I think kind of knocked our socks off a little bit as far as what we were expecting or not expecting with that technology integrated into our phono stage. Because I mean, this isn't our first phono stage, and we've heard moving coil or moving cartridge in other air phono stages before, but I think the unique properties that optical cartridge technology has to offer, paired with all of our hallmark design traits, like our fully balanced, zero feedback, discrete, diamond output circuit, like all of the quintessential kind of air design language paired with that sounds very exceptional. Um, it's just if you haven't explored that technology or you don't know much about that yet, I highly recommend that is something to be considered in your rig if you are looking to pick up PX-8. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, one thing I noticed that other thing to point out is that see, there's some internal terminals behind each input connector, and so it's I'm assuming it'd be less used, but there it is the option that you can manually install your own loading or capacitive loading. Particularly capacitive loading was the intention, because that's I don't know how commonly it's used or not, but that is a recommendation for certain cartridges and such. And so um, it was certainly not easy to provide externally on the chassis. It's not. I don't and I don't know of any phono preamp that ever has. So anyway, it is built in. It is pretty easy to access if you just take off the top. That's the one thing you have to take off the top for in this product.
Hmm.
So if you wanted to install some custom specific capacitive loading,
This guy
it
thinks
is
of
available.
everything.
I try.
Yeah. I love the
Um,
I kind of love the color of the board, you know. I love that clear solder mask. That's just something that I've really come to appreciate looking inside. I mean, the green is kind of cool for the testing and stuff, but
As you you typically do green, or some color prototype boards, or green, blue, purple prototype beta boards is kind of our standard. Yeah, and then our production boards usually clear solder mask, and so it's interesting that what comes out depending on which manufacturer they come from and which material is used. We've been getting an interesting array of kind of core material color exposed by that clear solder mask and not covered up. Such as like the logic board here, which also has clear solder, but it's very, very brown. It's kind of our chocolatey brown. Some of them are much lighter, kind of creamier. We have one that's we got recently was almost very rosy. It was
hmm.
really interesting. I seen a really interesting array, and they are and they're all spec'd as the same. Usually spec'd as the same material. Logic board might be a different material because it doesn't have any audio related stuff, and so I willing to spec a slightly different material for that.
Something else I'm noticing more from this perspective, and I can try to swing this back around this way, is that the transformer in this is it seems a pretty good size larger than what we had in the P5.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah, and a lot of it is um, is because we have to have digital control here, so we have quite a bit more power rails. The display when it's on, which certainly in a photo stage would recommend that it times out and turns off. It is when it's on, it is a little bit power hungry, so it has power requirements. And then, of course, the excuse me, the A to D board. Again, both its analog section as well as the digital section has not insignificant current draw, and so there's some significant power requirements in this, and so um, yeah, it is definitely a larger transformer than the P5. The P5 was um, quite diminutive.
Yes.
It was a very small transformer.
Yeah. And then we've got this kind of perfectly centered mounting,
Yep.
which sounds like if think based on your experience, if there's going to be any noise from power introduced, might as well have it done evenly,
Yes,
symmetrically.
yeah, yeah, but um, uh, this is where we did the P5 as well, but um, uh, but yeah, especially a phono stage where you have high gain, and so if you're, I mean, I spent a lot of time on the circuit board layout to try and make sure that all the signals are very well shielded. This is a multi-layer board, and so most of the very sensitive signals are actually on inner layers shielded by copper planes, top and bottom, and so there are any of the input signals, while they are still like in the millivolt range, they are largely protected and shielded.
Hmm.
So I did a lot of work to make sure that even if there was some stray field from the transformer, that it would be shielded and blocked from being coupled into music signal. Um, 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 but then yes, beyond that, make sure everything's very, very symmetric, so that the noise source is then symmetric between each channel. Because if there's going to be any minute pickup, yeah, I don't want it just in the left channel and just in the right channel. It was one of the original ideas thrown out, going from the prototype smaller size board to the larger chassis, was to have the board shoved to one side, the transformer on the other, and I threw that idea out relatively quickly. Again, like then that transformer would be very much closer to one channel and very far from the other. Um, and I guess the other big change, and I think, I don't know if we talked about this before. One of the admittedly mistakes we made in the P5, it was kind of the orientation of the input to output circuitry relative to the AC. And so the P5, um, the inputs were closer to the center of the unit and closer to the AC wiring. And we actually had to add a little shield internally to help
Hmm.
shield some of that noise, because there were some, depending on the setup, there was a little bit of hum pickup in that product. And so after we realized that the source was, we're like, oh yeah, like the input is a much higher impedance point. It's much easier to pick up noises. The output section is very low impedance and is very much more impervious to picking up unwanted noise. So this flips it, gets it right. The inputs are all the way at the outside, furthest from the AC. Um, and so, and that's one thing to note, is that in some of my very old test cables, these that were like single wire phono cables, you wrote a single wire and it splits. They were actually not wide enough to reach uh, the inputs on this. And so um, that's I don't think that will affect many people, but it's um, something to be aware of.
And I'm sure our very good
Yes.
friends at Cardis would be
Yes.
happy to make you a new phone arm cable that would fit
Certainly.
your new PX-8 just fine.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, with that the transformer spacing from where it's mounted to the board plays into lower noise, but also, and I know we've touched on this in another episode, I think our Transformers episode, but the way that the EI core transformer emits its radiation is quite a bit different than like a toroidal transformer would be, right? So is there, are
Yeah.
we guiding that in a certain direction here?
Well, I mean, there's going to be kind of field, and it's not easily to control. Our mounting strap, um, 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 is it is made with a material that is um, uh, the most effective at shielding low frequency noise, which is not true of most metals. And so this is actually a stainless steel that is actually magnetic stainless steel, and it's one of the couple materials that is actually good at shielding low frequency
Mm-hmm.
fields. And so we try to, again, attenuate it that way. Um, yeah, and again, distance makes a huge difference, again, because that kind of that field strength goes with the square of the distance. And so the further you get away, it's not just linear; it actually helps by the square. So it's
Yeah.
yeah. So that was actually one of the changes we made to the chassis, to add some mounting points, so that relative to some of the other products like the KX8 or something like that, that we actually get this transformer further forward in the chassis, further away. Yeah, yeah,
All sweet details here.
indeed. Um, yeah, but otherwise, yeah, it shares the same logic control board, display board, button board as many as the other X8 products. So again, we're sharing a lot of that cost and development Um,
Yeah, I am super excited. So I might take a moment to move the camera and I'll do a little crossfade here so that people can see how this thing looks. So I'm going to move it because I don't have an assistant to do this. Ta-da. All right, so we're gonna. Oh, there you go. There we go. So there's the balanced input there, and then
so yeah, because again, just like the rest of the 8 series, try to have a consistent for the user. So press and hold to go to standby, press to come out of standby. Um, Short press mutes, unmutes. The right button changes inputs. And you can see that for each input, a lot of the settings are available right there on screen with it. And so left, right buttons on the control pad uh, highlight which setting is selected. And then up and down, you can adjust that setting. Fairly simple. Change inputs, then it'll adjust. So we've got a pretty generous gain range, 45, 55, 65, 75 dB of gain, at least to the balanced outputs. With single end lab outputs, obviously you lose 6 dB, but so even worst case, you're close to 70 dB single ended, still quite healthy. Let's say, yeah. So you notice, we offer because of all of the switching necessary to do the inputs and to be able to switch the optical in and out. It provided us an easy opportunity to be able to provide the option to both do true polarity inversion. So, which I know is some people believe is can be important, certainly record to record or album to album that can be important. So it's easy to swap absolute polarity per input, and then also option to do mono mode. So if you have a mono cartridge, you can set that input to true mono mode, and mostly what that does is invert the right channel,
yeah.
um, which is both options that we've never offered before, but because of all of the adjustability we had to build in, it became easy to provide those as well.
Okay.
Those are obviously not this. Yeah, so when you on the optical input, obviously gain and loading are fixed. Those are not options available to the optical cartridge.
Yeah, it's
Right.
pretty high output cartridge setting there, and then you can mute right on the front of the unit as well. So if your record is done and you want to mute the signal before manipulating the tone arm and lifting it, that's pretty handy. But yeah, we put a lot of thought into that user interface. I thought it was pretty cool to have all the settings kind of globally listed there, so you don't have
Visible.
to dive into a bunch of different layers of the menu to try to
Right.
make adjustments or see what your cartridge settings are for a respective input. So that's the user interface. Yeah, good work, Ariel.
Thanks. It was, yeah, it's been a long time coming, and it's yeah. I mean, I'm still embarrassed that it took so long, but we've been working. Again, it's been more than a few years that we showed those first smaller chassis prototypes, and we've been talking about it for a long time. So,
Well, you are kind of a
mhm.
one-man show in most applications around here, but we did get some
Yeah,
help on this one too.
yeah, yeah, yes, yeah, yeah. The firmware side, yeah, 'cause that's I while I'm capable of doing some of the firmware, it's not my strength or skill or efficiency. So, um, yeah, so Brendan has um, come back to work on the firmware for us on this product.
Yeah, Brendan Boyle, who he helped with what, the QX5?
Started with the QX5, and then the rest of the 8 series was all Brendan. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some videos out there with Brendan and Ariel on the web, but we were like, what, his were we his first gig out of college? And yeah, so Brendan worked for us right out of college, and he's also a musician and passionate audiophile, and he kind of left Air for a bit to go into the aerospace industry, and he's still kind of formally over there, but we're trying to find ways of getting his help, and he wants to come back and help as much as he can because this is what he's passionate about. And then the user manual, we also got some help from another former airhead,
That's right.
our good friend Brent Heffley, who would highly approve of the drink that I'm sipping on today. Which I guess we didn't even talk about our drinks, so we should do that
Amazing.
next probably. But yeah, this was definitely kind of a full team effort to fully realize this product, and like I said at the beginning, I feel like there's been enough changes and revisions and updates to what was originally intended that I think it though it took a while, I think it is a much better and cooler product than it was probably going to end up being in the long run for people.
Yeah.
What are you drinking over there?
So I'm drinking Eel River Brewing California Blonde. I feel like I've had this before. I recognize this. Can't remember from where, but I don't think it was from one of our shows, but I recognize this. Um, it's yeah, I'm quite fond of blonde ales, particularly Belgians. So this is right up my alley. This is delicious.
I like blondes from California.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yes, and I'm drinking an alive ancient mushroom elixir. It's a root
Oh,
beer kombucha with reishi, chaga, and turkey tail. These are quite good. These are probably, I think, the best that this company makes. But I feel really good whenever I'm done drinking these. So I kind of get a lot of them. So this is probably one that you'll see me drinking in these episodes a lot. But I did stop drinking officially back in September, and so I'll be moving on to these kombuchas or cold pressed watermelon juice or and some other fancy root beers or lemonades or something. But yeah, if there's any non-alcoholic pints with air fans out there, you can hang out and enjoy whatever it is you drink with me now, and give me some suggestions, give me some comments what you're sipping on, and I'll try to partake as well with you. But yeah, Expona's this
mm,
weekend. We're not at Expona, but our good friend Gunny with Sonar Audio is representing us out there, and he's using our QX520 as the source and the preamp in his system. And he kept it real simple, and he's just doing QX520 into a pair of tube mono blocks from Audion, I think is the name of the company.
mm,
I had never heard of him before. Audion Black Shadow monoblocks, but I like his approach of keeping it real simple, just air, DAC, and pre, and a pair of monoblocks, and that's it. So that's room 719. So between the finishing up the development and getting this product out the door, and just some other complications that arose. Unfortunately, we're not physically present at Axpona, but we do have some solid representation with our good friends at Sonar Audio in room 719. So, so go check them out. But
mm.
can you think of anything else that's super awesome that we didn't touch on with this product?
Boy, I mean, if you dive more into the circuit details, there's you know, again, it's falls very much in line with, kind of the 8 series, circuit architecture as far as power supply and stuff. But I did throw a little extra at this one because it's a phono
Mm,
stage, because it needed lower noise, because of the high gain. I threw a little extra at the power supply section.
nice.
So kind of more kind of 5 series style. As far as current sources and cascoding, there's um, a little more than the normal 8 series products. Um, that, and then there's a little more special sauce in the capacitive coupling between stages. Um, um, that's yeah, that again, that's kind of a little more secret sauce there. Um, well,
Nut.
while the compared to like the old P5, the parts quality here is a slightly lower level, but the way it's implemented for some of the parts may actually be better.
I I say this a lot, and a lot of the and some of the people I talk to that probably watch this have probably heard me say it, but I feel like this whole series is a real good representation of us working smarter, not harder, and just becoming a lot more efficient at building a better sounding design without, yeah, throwing as many parts or as expensive of parts. Like
Yeah.
we've learned so much that we're accomplishing a lot more at a lower price point.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, certainly. I would say that the parts count has been going up, just in general. More kind of complex circuits, but um, but there's good reason for it.
And the first 25 of these units we've been doing in-house by hand.
Yeah. So that main audio board, yeah. So we've been kind of honing our in-house PCB production skills, and so yeah, this first batch at least, and we'll see moving forward. Have been built in-house, and we've been, like I said, fine-tuning our skills, and I'm actually really happy, really impressed with the point we've gotten to. And so,
I am too.
you know, so it is, it's majority of surface mount, and so being able to do solder stencil, solder paste stenciling, hand placing parts. We're not quite to the stage of having our own pick and place machine yet, but we're getting there. Hand placed parts, um, well, um, putting them in an oven to bake and melt solder paste. So yeah, we've been working on that and getting better and better. And I'm really happy with the quality. That I would have. I have very few reservations now. I don't have any reservations, let's say, and actually, having a high quality product that we ship out the door using in-house built boards.
Yeah. Do you have an idea about how many parts go on this particular board?
Um, I think in total, including through whole parts, want to say it's about 700, 700 something, I believe.
So when you're out there going, "Where's my phono stage?" Just imagine us using tweezers for over 700 tiny little parts going on your board with love.
Right.
Uh, yeah, I can't wait to get my own. And um, I'm looking forward to showing it off at some other shows. I'll be making some announcements here fairly soon about our kind of revised show schedule for this year. I've got some new plans and probably going to be hitting some different shows than we have in previous years. So stay tuned for some of those announcements. And yeah, this is kind of the backstage view of the PX8. But I'll probably put out another kind of close up product release type video about it. But I know our Pints with Air viewers appreciate kind of the candid, kind of more personalized explanation of how some of this stuff has come together. So yeah, Ariel. Good job. I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
All right, man. Any last words?
No, I wish it were Friday.
Oh yeah, it's a Thursday, so
Thursday, it feels like Friday,
it does
and
feel like Friday.
I'm ready to be done.
But Thursday might be the new day. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We we,
To
we should try doing bi-weekly Pints episodes, but
be a
or
start.
not bi-weekly, or yeah, two days a week. That would be good.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, not bi-weekly, 2 days a week. We're back on it though. We're back on track. We'll be back. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.